Now, let's move on and talk about rugby, because this weekend the Heineken Champions Cup roars back into action. We've got the first game live and exclusive national radio commentary of that on News Talk on Friday evening during Off the Ball from 7 to 10. It is Leinster against Wasps at the RDS. But in 1995, it was the far less glamorous surrounds, or actually maybe far more glamorous, I don't know. It was Milan anyway, which, you know, on the face of it should have been pretty glamorous. Malcolm O'Kelly is here to remind us about the glamour. How are you?
It was very glamorous.
It was
I was known for my glamour back then, for sure.
I see you dressed like a Milanese businessman for us this morning.
Yeah, I decided not to wear the tie though.
Do you have any recollection of that first game in European competition? So this is Silvio Berlusconi owns the team.
That's right.
Which is pretty glamorous back in the day.
Yeah, and the stadium, or well, the municipal park that we played in. I do remember, because it was my first ever Heineken Cup. And of course the very first Heineken Cup. It was very early days for me in Leinster. I played a couple of the the Connacht match the year before. So I played against the Blue Bulls the year before. So it had some kind of touches with Leinster, but it was very much like I was really keen, you know. It was a great honour to play.
You're only about 18 or 19, were you?
I was about 20.
Right.
95, 20, maybe just turning 21.
Okay.
But still pretty young for a second row. I do remember it. It reminds me of playing at Bushy Park. That's I saw a picture of the stadium, and I don't remember stands at all.
Right.
I think there might have been a match on in the main stage, and we were pushed out. But I do remember. Geez, I remember some of it. Like, I would have been renowned back then for catching kickoffs. So I'd have been going in there like a GA lad, midfielder, and catching a kickoff over my head and what have you. And the very first kickoff, go and do that, and this huge big lad, he must have been about 22, 23 stone, big beard, probably a second rower now, but he must have been about 32 or 33, big old guy. And he just, you know, takes the legs clean from underneath me. I'd literally do a flip in the air and land down on my shoulder.
Right.
And it was like, now, with the adrenaline and everything, I just got on with it and played on. But that day, I'd done a grade 1 damage on my AC, and it was with me for the rest of my season, you know.
Right, from the first kickoff.
The first kickoff,
Jesus.
Yeah. It was a real intent from them, you know.
Yeah.
And like the Italian rugby back then was quite. You know, we lost to Italy, and we were going to lose in about a year further on down the line. Like, they were quite strong, you know, and Michael Lina was playing with Treviso.
Right.
You know, they had a good league, good strong league.
Diego, we were looking at the team. Diego Dominguez played that day, but apparently didn't play well against you guys that day.
Missed a lot of kicks. There's a lot of penalties. Like, you know, you've got an Irish style of rugby against an Italian style of rugby. And
that Irish style of rugby was like a Ger and Eoin, a bit of a
yeah. Like Dean Oswald would be all over the ball. If Dean Oswald's not over the ball, I'm all over the ball. If I'm not over, Chris Pym is all over the ball, and you get shooed. And, like, you know, that was rugby back then.
That was your job.
It was a penalty, and then you get if he deemed that you, I don't know, I can't even remember what we got a penalty for. Yeah, you got a penalty against you. That was like, all right. So I gave away the very last penalty, which is quite unnecessarily from the halfway line. Like, and Domingos had a chance to win the game for them.
Right. Okay.
He missed.
Right.
It was a long way out.
Happy days.
By defense.
Yeah, it was a professional penalty concession.
Well, that's how I can remember playing it. I think we played maybe the year after we played against Stade Francais over there, and the first half we were quite close. But the first half was because people like myself and would just lie on the ball. So we'd lie on the ball for as long as we could until we got shooed off, and I just couldn't handle lying on the ball anymore. And then they got the ball they wanted and they hammered us.
The shoeing worked.
Oh, that was how we dealt with it.
And we're talking about like the hobnail boots or the
21s, yeah, fierce. But thankfully those
happy
days
times
are behind us. Yeah.
What was the general sense of novelty around the tournament like at the time? Because obviously when you look at football, like only 3-4 years previously that had become the Champions League, and European football had become this sexy thing. Did you think that you were setting off packing your bags for Italy, that this would become this very glamorous European conquest?
Well, I do think we were pretty excited about it, because it was taking us out of the provincial matches, and previous to that, we didn't really have any exposure. So yeah, it certainly was very exciting for everyone, and it was always very exciting for us coming and play and training with Leinster, because we came from the clubs, which was our bread and butter. So to go up to that level and then have, you know, a few games, it was very exciting. Yeah, for sure.
So the AIL is still huge at this point, right?
AIL is still huge, yeah.
And how does this work then? You're playing AIL week in, week out?
Yeah, well, we used to train Tuesdays and Thursdays evenings with the club, and we train Wednesdays with Leinster.
Right.
So you train one day a week.
How many games would Leinster have had at that stage?
They would have had the provincial games and then whatever touring matches.
Okay.
So you're talking maybe 8.
Okay.
Maybe less.
And so this
Probably less.
This is 95, the first year of the European Cup. I think there was 12 teams in it. Is that right? 4 groups of 3.
2 pool games, a semi-final and a final. So you had 4 games max really in the tournament.
We played 2 games, 2 pool games. We played against Milan, and then we played against Pontypridd in Dublin, which we narrowly won. I didn't play that much. And then we played against Cardiff.
Yeah, you lost that semi-final.
Cardiff, yeah. We were well beaten by Cardiff. They're a much stronger side than we were. But we put up a good fight. But, funnily enough, if we had beaten Cardiff, I would have been playing the final, because none of our internationals would have been available to play the final of the Heineken Cup.
Why not?
Yeah. Because there was an Irish. Well, this is what unless we're going to change this.
Yeah.
There was an Irish training camp planned for the same week as the final of the Heineken Cup.
Screw you, European Cup. You don't need this.
Yeah, I think it was. I remember the final of the Heineken Cup was in Cardiff Arms anyway, which was obviously a huge advantage to Cardiff being there against Toulouse. And I don't know if that was set in stone or it was just because they scored more tries. Or whatever way they'd worked it out, because they hadn't really. I don't think they'd really kind of thought about, like, we need to put this in a massive stadium so loads of people can come to it.
Yeah.
They just kind of went, well, whoever gets through, they can put it up, and whoever scores the most tries maybe can
host it. Yeah. Looking at the stats on how many people actually showed up, so there was a whisper of 4,000 at Lansdowne Road for the game, the Pontypridd game. So that would have been in Lansdowne instead of. Would most of Leinster's games have been in Lansdowne in those days, or would they have been in Donnybrook?
No, we were Donnybrook, yeah.
Really, yeah.
I'm not sure exactly why we went to Lansdowne Road for that. Probably there was a schools game on at the same time or in Donnybrook. I'm not sure, but...
And then 7,350 showed up for the semi-final against Cardiff.
Yeah.
Which, you're Dublin. That's explosive growth in anybody's...
Yeah. No, it was a good atmosphere, if I can remember. It was a good atmosphere.
Did you play in the Cardiff game?
No, I watched kind of nervously, knowing that I was going to possibly be playing the Toulouse match, which everybody was kind of like, whatever about Milan and whatever about these, but Toulouse were the one team that were actually really good. They were the best team in Europe, without a doubt. Everybody knew that, and the opportunity to play against them was incredibly nerve-wracking.
Because Neil Francis wasn't playing in that game in Milan. You were playing. Would he have been first choice?
I'm not sure. He would have been first choice. Yeah.
Alongside Brian Rigney, also
Brian
first
Rigney,
choice.
I think Steve Jamieson might have played in Cardiff. We had some big bruisers playing in the row.
Yeah.
And then me. I was always put with someone like Brian Rigney. As rarely I would have played with Frano, because they wanted someone who'd look after you. Frano would shove you out. He'd push you out in front of him. I'm only joking. No, but Brian and Gemma would have been very much, they look after the young fella.
Enforcers.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of needed that a little bit. You needed
well, if they're shooing you with those,
you needed someone watching your back, because you wanted a young guy to play with abandon and be everywhere, and
to be naive of the fear that he was actually
going all around them like.
These Italian forwards.
Yeah, sure.
Did you get any pride out of the fact that you managed to get out of your pool that year and Munster failed miserably to get out? Well, not miserably. They did win the game, I think, but they came second in their pool and didn't get out of it.
Yeah. I don't know if there was a huge rivalry between us and... certainly I didn't feel it between us and Munster. Obviously, the guys would have had more... but it was so new. I think we didn't really know much, but we were pretty excited to be in the semis.
It was a big step for. I can't get over the fact that first day, just going back to Milan briefly, that first game was played on a Wednesday afternoon. Like, no wonder 600 people showed up for the game, because like Wednesday afternoon in Milan, I mean, people have jobs. Like, it's.
Well, I really think this was shoveled together really quickly.
Did they expect it to take off?
Had to fit in between the existing schedules.
Yeah.
And so hence like it was on the Wednesday. Hence the final was in Cardiff Arms, because Cardiff were in it. You know. I don't know if they. I think they saw this as a huge opportunity. I think clubs were looking for, maybe not the English clubs, because they were hesitant to get involved in it. But I presume the Irish, Scottish, Welsh, we were mad for it, and the Italians too. So for the French, it was great that we could have them involved, and the following years, then when the English got involved, it just gave it a lot more. Yeah, it built its reputation out of it.
You were with Leinster for that year, 95 into 96, 97, and then you head to England. Is that it?
Yeah. So I left in September 96 for London.
September 96. Okay, so fairly soon afterwards.
Yeah, the following season. Yeah. The English clubs got their act together.
That was it. There was
they developed a professional league.
Yeah.
And there was huge opportunity for any player coming out with any reputation.
This is a slightly under talked about element in all this, is that like the story gets told, the Irish provinces got formed and immediately the IRFU understood exactly what needed to happen. But actually what happens is Ireland's best players move to England.
Yeah.
And there's a crisis in the IRFU and they're like, shit, we better do something about this. And then the provinces become important. So without the players moving away, that whole provincial thing, it's taken as a fairly obvious, we had that ready to go. I'm not really sure it was as obvious at the time.
Yeah, no. Like at the time, it was all about the clubs, and the professional era was upon us, and the clubs were thinking how they could be professional. They were looking at Wales, and they were seeing Llanelli, and they're seeing Cardiff's, and the clubs were thinking how can we become professional, or can we do? And there was like, there's no way AL can become a professional league, and. In all of this, between the battling between who's going to become the professional outfits, all the players left.
Yeah.
Like I came out of college, it was like, I'm an engineer, either I go start working as an engineer or I take up this lucrative deal where I can play professionally in London. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky choice. Plus they wanted me to study. If you want to study, you want to do a master's, there's no problem. We'll facilitate all of that.
Okay.
They had we'd so many of the Irish internationals over.
Yeah, because at that point, London Irish is genuinely London Irish. There's like a bunch of Irish people playing in London.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah,
Who was on that team with you?
Well, we had Gary Halpin, who was always over there, and a couple of front rowers that weren't Irish. But then we had in the row Gabriel Fulcher and Jeremy Davison, who were the current rowers, and then myself. And then we had Kieran Dawson, Victor Costello, and an English guy, Kieran Bird. Then we had Niall Hogan. Right. We had David Humphreys. We had Mark McCall. We had Rob Henderson. We had Conor O'Shea, Niall Woods, and then with a few other kind of Irish English kind of guys. But everyone had an Irish connection. Because
I'm looking at the team that played against Milan that day, and Conor O'Shea was playing. Niall Woods was playing, Victor Costa was playing, you were playing, so at least four of you ended up there.
Yeah.
Paul Wallace was also on the team.
Paul Wallace went to Saracens.
Yeah. Shane Byrne stayed home the whole time, I think, did he?
Shane Byrne, he stayed at home, he was kind of linked with he had kind of business at home, I think, so it was kind of...
Kirk McQuilkin, did he go to England for a while?
Kurt, no, Kurt stayed.
So it's Alan Roland was scrum half, Alan McGowan was out half. Yeah. Niall Woods and Paddy Gavin are the wingers. Kurt McQuilkin.
Henry Hurley went to Moseley.
Vinnie Cunningham, obviously.
Vinnie got injured a bad knee injury, and that ended his career. Because possibly he could have made proper money, because he would have come off the back of the Lions in, was it 94?
3 was the Lions tour, was it?
Maybe,
I think. Yeah. But is 95 the year he scored the 3 tries? Is that the year that we nearly beat?
Yeah, he was an international. He was of pretty high standing, So
he had that game against the All Blacks where it was like, this guy's really good.
Yeah.
That must have been great having that huge Irish community over there at the time.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was fantastic, yeah. And we were all like students. It was like just like being in college, really, except you're all in money. And we're all driving the same cars. We'd have Regis. We'd exact same rate, but a slight change. We were all doing Green Rovers, driving around the place. And we all lived in Sunbury, which was a little just around the outskirts of London. It was very leafy. It was lovely. We trained. We used to train because it was half amateur, half pro. So we used to train during the day. We would do a lot of weights, and we would do a lot of training, and then we'd come back in the evening and we'd train, and we'd do the same thing again.
Yeah.
We were doubling up. So we found ourselves doing a lot of training. And we went through a lot of coaches over a period of a few years.
Clive Woodward was there at that time, wasn't he?
Clive was fantastic, and Clive got me over and got all the guys. He was incredibly good at selling London Irish to everybody, and everybody came into droves. And then we kind of got there. It was kind of the reality of it, of the league we were in, and we didn't really have the tools to deal with it. You have to build a culture, and we get we've seen how Leinster and Munster have done so well over the years.
Yeah.
We were playing against the Leicesters and the Bats and these teams who were settled, Players
through their own academy system or in the locality who were playing for the locality.
Like proper cultures, and hard teams. And we really struggled. Now we had some good wins and had great moments, but the unsettled nature of London Irish was tough. That year, I'd say 10 or 12 left. And then a whole host of other players came in, and it all started again. Different coaches. It was a very turbulent time for London Irish, and for all the players involved.
How did you end up coming back? Is it just Leinster?
It was ongoing because every year, Ireland, the Irish squad, and Leinster keep in touch, and we're always trying to see how they could get us back. They were very aware of what they'd lost. And every Irish player in the end wanted to play for Ireland, and they see the best ways. But there was nothing there for us for many years. The first couple of years it was just no point. There was a handful of games. I think the fact that we kind of the pro. I don't call it the pros, the Celtic League or the Celtic Cup, I think it was.
Yeah.
So they had actually got something solid and would have enough games. Now, eventually I went back. I had a shoulder injury, had a couple other things, and the stars aligned. And they put a decent proposal for me to come back. But I had three bosses. I had St Mary's, who I played all their matches with. I had Leinster, who I would have played about 7 or 8 matches with. And then obviously Ireland. I ended up with an AIL medal. I can't remember. Provincially, we were okay, not great. And then the following year, the league started.
Right. So you actually got it over before the first Celtic League starts.
Yeah.
Which is a bit I'm presuming it's a bit mad.
Yeah, everything is a bit crazy. Yeah.
Are the IRFU paying you, or Leinster paying you, or is it an amalgamation of the three of them?
I can't go into it.
Oh, right, okay.
No, there was a case of
everybody combined.
Everybody was getting involved.
And so everybody wants their pound of flesh.
Yeah.
Get out there, I don't care if you're injured.
Yeah. But we're happy to do it.
Yeah.
Happy to do it now, happy to play games. So
it
wasn't an issue like that. But it was, all the training you'd have to do. You have to train for your club, you then have to train for your, and like all different styles. So so you end up playing the way you want to play, and that's
great for great for the national team.
Yeah, when you go to the national team, and you're asked to do, lots of different things. At that level, at that stage, it was just about catching lineouts.
Yeah.
Catch your lineouts.
Who's the Ireland coach at this point? This is around 2000.
Warren.
Right, so
Warren, was it? No, Brian Ashton maybe. Warren hasn't quite arrived, but Warren was a huge factor for developing the provinces. And I think Warren was involved. Warren was coach at the time because he was instigated. Because I was very close to going to France, going down to Cast and playing.
Right.
But I got it. I myself did my shoulder in, and it kind of took me off the
off the radar. Right.
Yeah. So. It was, it was interesting times back then.
It seems chaotic. And again, the story gets written about how, Irish rugby was set up, ready to go, and exploded into the professional era. But that's not really the truth, is it?
No, I think what they did was good. In hindsight, we're all saying hindsight.
Yeah.
Is that they stood back. If they jumped in, probably like the Premiership, and gone in with, okay, we're going to create an eight club professional club system. We're going to pick 2 or 3 from each province or whatever. They would have failed. They would have ended up like Wales and would have lost a lot of money. But they didn't spend their money. They kind of let players go off, and then slowly but surely brought players back into the fold. Like even by the time I nearly finished, like we still had players abroad like Jordan Murphy and players like that had slipped out and never came back. Because obviously Jordan went to a great culture like Leicester and became part of the wallpaper there.
Yeah. It made sense for him to stay totally. Just to go back to the European Cup, then, at what point do you kind of begin to appreciate that, like, this rugby is as good as club rugby is ever going to be, that those matches are huge?
Well, when I played with London Irish, the first year we went there under the stipulation that we could continue to play European rugby with Leinster.
That's madness, isn't it?
Yeah. So that was part of our contract.
Right.
That was and that was part of the sell that Clive made, because we loved it. Like, obviously we did our first year, and that was, we really enjoyed, playing that kind of thing. And it was, I suppose, because we'd done reasonably well the previous year, that we thought it was something we wanted to do.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like,
you would fly from London and meet the team wherever they were.
Yeah, well, we'd fly from all over the place. Like Paul Wallace would fly in from London. We would fly from everywhere, all our clubs, and we'd meet. And we'd meet the Sunday of the game, just like we're meeting for an Ireland match. So it wouldn't seem that odd.
Yeah.
And we'd just all come in, and then we start training, and we do our lineouts. And
so you have a whole week.
Yeah.
All right.
The backs would do their thing, we do our thing.
Meanwhile, London Irish have a league game, and Clyde.
London Irish, it didn't clash. They would have played. I don't know what they played, because there was no. The following year, London Irish got into a European competition themselves.
Yeah.
So that year they would have had a free week. And we came, and I remember when I came back from London. Our first match was against Leicester, and we would have played Leicester and London Irish and got hammered. Then we went to Lansdowne Road. There was about, I'm not sure how many were, but it felt like there was like 8,000 people there.
Yeah.
It was like all the bottom tier was full. The atmosphere was phenomenal. We're back in Ireland, we're back in Dublin, playing at Lansdowne Road.
I remember there being hype about that game. It was the first time that there was hype about a Leinster.
And we had players who were coming from all over the place. So it felt like this was like
important.
A really strong side. And we really showed up against. Now we lost. But it was against Leicester, and Leicester were arguably the best team in Europe, or second best team in Europe.
Yeah, at least as good as
yeah. So it was really positive.
Well, that was the Leicester team of Jono and
that was enough. Yeah, and Roundtree and all these guys. Yeah, Garforth.
Richard Hill.
It would have been not Richard Hill, but who would have been there? Back row? Neil Back. Neil Back. Dean Richards.
Oh yeah.
Some
recognisable roundheads.
They had some beasts. Yeah. And they got some good players out wide as well. So. But so we really it was fantastic for us to come back. And I can't remember any other games. I think we might have played the likes of Poe and these kind of teams. Yeah, we would have, because I have memories of playing against Poe and Donnybrook, which would have won comfortably.
Yeah. Once you lose that Leicester game, though, that's because the groups are so small. There's only 2 games. Probably a few more that season for the English teams are in, but you do end up. It seems like a mad enough time. Yeah,
it was a good time. It was a good time. Like I can remember the following year, London Irish built up their own. They had their own. The second division European League was set up, and we ended up going out to Romania and playing against Faro Constanta.
Wow.
Yeah, so we landed in Bucharest, and we took the bus from Bucharest to Constanta.
How far is that?
It was about 3 or 4 hour drive, and we thought our roads were bad. We're like, my God, the M1 from Bucharest to Constanta left a lot to be desired. But it's an American naval base out there,
right?
And we stayed in this unbelievable hotel. It was like something out of Transylvania. It was fantastic, but it was a great match. Now we had a fantastic match, but after the match, they didn't really have any. They had a few snacks to give us, but they didn't have anything. But so they, under the covers, they pulled all this kind of homebrew that they'd made.
Right.
So they indulged us with their local homebrew, which was great, you know. And that's where the game was. Like it wasn't where it is now.
Ice baths.
You know, no, he just went on with it, and
been back to Constanta since?
I've never been back to Romania, the Black Sea. That's where it was. It was a beautiful, beautiful place. I'd love to go back. Yeah, but no, never been.
It's a shame that those crazy journeys are sort of limited to the Challenge Cup these days, like Connacht going over to Siberia a couple of years ago.
That's right, yeah.
It's kind of like, you'd almost miss it, I'd say.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We went over there for the World Cup qualifier. Ireland went to Krasnoyarsk. That's where that was, yeah. And we flew into Moscow. And we realised that we weren't even halfway there. It was the same latitude as Calcutta. You know, we're playing a European qualifier. It was like, what? And we all had to disembark off the plane. So everybody has to disembark off the plane when we land in Moscow. And of course, like, I'm not thinking straight. I left my jacket in there with my passport. I was going, suddenly I realised, oh no, I left my passport, and I was freaking out. I'm like, this is all I need now. And then the only saving grace was Eddie left his passport in. I was like, yes. So it delayed everything. We had to go by police escort back onto the plane, get our passports. All our luggage came back off the plane.
Oh, Christ.
We had to check back in. You know, if you knew what was ahead of you, it'd be fine, but we'd no idea what was happening. We're just waiting, you know. So, you know, you need to go and you get your bags. Then you have to get your bags. Then you have to go out of the airport, back around, check back in, and then get on the next plane to...
You were blessed that Eddie O'Sullivan had done exactly the same thing.
Could you imagine, Eddie? That's just not acceptable, Mal. You'd have killed me.
Oh, Mal, it's been great stuff. Leinster, should win most of their games this year. They're still the best team in Europe. It's up to them.
Really strong, yeah.
27 fully fit internationals. That's the only downside, is that somebody's going to be very pissed off when the team gets selected.
Yeah, well, you know, I suppose it's all about spirit for them and you know, keeping that competitive edge and everybody being happy to play their part, you know. And I think they have the balance right at the moment. You know, that doesn't mean that they're going to win the silverware they won last year, but you know, just regarding that Munster and Leinster performance, you could see from a Leinster perspective that Leinster were really up for it, you know, in terms of their defence. It was a strange match, because you normally expect Leinster to have a lot more of the ball.
Yeah.
But I think it's more credit to Munster, the way Munster played, because Munster really went at it. I haven't seen Munster play as well in Dublin in many years.
And they also got completely destroyed by the referee, so it would have been interesting to see what would have happened.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, well, that's always debatable, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, Mal, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Thanks, guys.